In the Middle East, where decades of rivalries, unstable alliances, and armed conflicts have shaped the fate of entire nations. And the year 2026 marked a turning point that came at a high cost for everyone. Tensions that had been building up exploded into a direct war, with consequences that crossed regional borders and affected global energy markets. On February 28th, American and Israeli forces launched a military operation against Iran. The initial strike included the elimination of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and several high-ranking military commanders. What followed was a rapid escalation. Iran imposed a de facto blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow maritime passage through which about 20% of the world's traded oil and liquefied natural gas pass. Energy prices also soared, renewing inflationary pressures in several economies. For Iran, the costs were heavy. Military and energy infrastructure suffered significant damage, and its export capacity was severely restricted. For President Donald Trump, the war took a growing political toll, with internal criticism about the direction of the country, conflict, and the need to avoid an even greater global economic crisis. After more than 3 months of fighting and more than 30 statements saying negotiations were advancing, during the G7 summit in France, Trump signed the long-awaited Memorandum of Understanding with Iran, directly from the Palace of Versailles, alongside the French President, Emmanuel Macron. The Iranian President, Masoud Pezeshkian, confirmed the signing on Tehran's side and officially presented the images of his signature and the already signed document. Next to the Quran, the country's holy book, a historic event, the document, called the Initial Memorandum, establishes the immediate and permanent end of military operations on all battlefronts, including Lebanon. It also provides for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, with no charges for ships during the first 60 days, and the end of all American sanctions against Iran. A reconstruction plan worth $300 billion is also mentioned for the country. Although American authorities have clarified that this is not a direct payment from the American Treasury, it could involve projects facilitated by third parties, such as the United Arab Emirates. If you want access to more in-depth analysis and exclusive content, such as videos, shorts, and live streams that are not made public here, become a channel member for only 7.99 Rs per month. The Iranian nuclear program, however, will be left for later negotiation during a 60-day period, which can be extended by mutual consent. Iran commits to reaffirming that it will not seek or develop nuclear weapons. Its enriched uranium will be diluted on its own territory under the supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Trump stated that if there is no final agreement, the United States would bomb Iran with full force. After Donald Trump and Masoud Pezeshkian signed the Memorandum of Understanding to end the war in Iran, the mediator also signed it. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was the key figure who did not give up on the hard work of ending the war.
Do trabalho para encerrar a guerra.
The Iranian, the spokesperson of the parliament, Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, expressed distrust. He said that if the enemy does not understand the language of logic, we will return to the language of power. According to him, the Strait of Hormuz will not return exactly to the conditions before the war, opening up the possibility of future charges. The signing generated immediate reactions. In the United States, for example, Republican senators like Ted Cruz criticized the Reconstruction Fund and warned against any concessions to the theocratic regime. Democrats like Senator Jeanne Shaheen called the memorandum insufficient because it did not address Iranian support for regional proxy groups or its ballistic missile program. Trump, in turn, emphasized that the agreement would prevent a global economic catastrophe and that financial markets reacted positively every time peace was mentioned. Amid this scenario, the strongest reaction came from Israel. The country had entered the war alongside the United States precisely to eliminate the Iranian nuclear threat and weaken its network of armed allies, especially Hamas in Lebanon. The memorandum also called for an immediate ceasefire on that front, something that Israel clearly rejects. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that the agreement was an American decision, not an Israeli one, and that Israel is not bound by it. In other words, sending a warning to his political base. Netanyahu said that with or without the agreement, Iran will not have nuclear weapons as long as he is prime minister. Defense Minister Israel Katz emphasized that Israeli forces will remain in the security zones in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza for an indefinite period. Meanwhile, the Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, was more direct. The Trump agreement does not bind us. Israel is not subject to the United States and is a sovereign and independent nation. Other Israeli leaders, such as Bezalel Smotrich, called the agreement bad for Israel and for the free world. For Israel, the central issue is the perception that the agreement weakens the gains achieved during the war. The main objective of the military campaign was to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear bomb and to dismantle its ability to project power through groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and other groups. With the agreement, Iran receives sanctions relief, which had economically isolated it, potentially allowing it to recover oil revenues and possibly rebuild its military capabilities. The nuclear program is not permanently eliminated. There is only a stated commitment not to produce weapons. With uranium dilution on site, without complete removal of the material from the country, as some initially demanded. Trump also considered it acceptable for Iran to keep its ballistic missiles, as long as other countries have them too. In addition, the agreement pressures Israel to end its operations in Lebanon, where Israel maintains a presence to contain Hezbollah, as we have already discussed here. Netanyahu resisted the Iranian demands for a complete withdrawal, but the American pressure was evident. Trump publicly criticized Netanyahu's tough approach against Hezbollah, suggesting that he use a softer touch. This combination creates a deep strategic tension for Israel. The country finds itself facing a scenario in which its main ally, the United States, chooses a diplomatic path that prioritizes global economic stability and an end to direct hostilities with Iran. At the same time, Israel continues to face threats from Iranian proxy groups and fears that the Tehran regime will use any respite to rearm and resume support for hostile groups. Israel's operational independence is preserved in official statements, but the political and military cost of acting alone only increases. Internal critics in Israel point out that the war, which began with ambitious objectives, may now end without completely dismantling the capabilities that motivated the offensive. But there is one issue. Trump warned that if the negotiations over the next 60 days fail, the American military response will be devastating. This agreement represents the first concrete step toward ending the direct war between the United States and Iran, easing pressure on vital maritime routes and reducing the immediate risk of a global energy crisis. If you've followed along so far and want to better understand the military and strategic developments of this situation, leave your opinion in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel for more commentary like this and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. And if you want access to more in-depth analysis and exclusive content on the channel, like videos, shorts, and live streams that aren't released publicly, become a channel member for just 7 Rs and 99 centavos per month.